So as soon as this comes up. Okay. Be right with you. It's always something. Okay. What's that? 14. Yeah. Okay. When you download it, it should when you open it, it should look like that. Bracket. There's a drawing called a U bracket. Kevin, you got that loaded? Good. Paul, you okay? Okay. So we're gonna look at dimensioning on this one. I'm going to show you some cool things about dimensioning. You all set? Okay. So we're going to look at dimensioning, and this is chapter 13. I'm not going to go through everything about it. In fact, just the basic stuff that we need. It's very simple. It's very point and shoot. Okay, just like AutoCAD is. It has it actually has dimension variables that look exactly like. Actually, they have a dim style that's almost really similar to AutoCAD's. We're not going to look at that too much. If you want to look into that, it's in your book. You can read a little bit more about that. For what we're doing, you just need to be able to grab them and use them, okay? So that's going to be what we're looking at. And then in chapter 14, we're going to look at symmetrical kind of things. So I'll show you how to do some cool stuff. We're going to do a revolve, and we're going to take a look at doing an array. And then I'm going to get you guys some assignments and turn you loose, okay? All right, so when we have this guy open as a model-based dimension, then we know that we can go in and create a file drawing. So let's go ahead. We're going to go up and create a new drawing file. So we're going to go to new, but we're going to do this time, we're going to do actually I'm going to use this new here. Yeah, that'll work. Let's see, either one. I'm going to do a drawing. So this is a DWG that is going to bring in that sheet set for me. Now, you can have multiple sheets within one sheet. It's kind of interesting. So what I've been having you guys do in the past is clicking up here, deleting that. But we can actually go in here to edit the sheet. So if you click on your sheet 1, you can edit the sheet right there. And you can tell it what size you want to use. Instead of D size, I can use a B size. Notice now I've got that. Question? You may get, okay, that's good. All right. So what I did was I clicked over here, right click on sheet 1, and then go to edit that sheet, and we can bring that in as a B size. So we don't actually have to delete it. We can just use that one if you want. Okay. So once we have our sheets, we need to place files. Now, if you are going to do other managements, you could do other managements, like you could set up your dim styles and all of that stuff. You know, I'm not gonna have you go in and do that right now, but if you do get the chance to read the book, if you go over to this Manage tab, go over to the Manage tab here at the top, and there's your style editors. So that'll open up the different styles that you have, the dim styles, your text styles, those kind of things, okay? So it's kind of really similar to the text styles and dim styles that we have in AutoCAD, but we're not going to worry about that. So what we're going to do, go back to Place Views, and the first thing you need to do is bring in a base view, okay? Now, I've noticed a couple, not too many, I think you guys are all doing it fine, but some people are creating just these unique little file views, but they're not linked together so that you don't have a top linked to a side, which is linked to a bottom. Well, if we bring in the base view first, then we have these things set up exactly the way we want them to be. So we're going to go to the base up here, which we've been doing. it should automatically find the open file that you're working on. So it should find the U bracket. So notice there's a couple of different settings here. One is the style. So notice you have, this is called a hidden line. The middle one is a hidden line removal. Turn them off. And the third one is shaded. So you can have a shaded view with hidden lines, or a shaded view with non-hidden lines, or you can just have a normal view, which is what we want, with hidden lines. That's very common, okay? Scale factors, we know how to handle scale factors. It normally generates the scale factor for you automatically. So you can change that if you want. So we're gonna go ahead and hit OK for this. And I'm gonna place this over here. And notice that's my base view. So that base view is actually fairly small. So what I'm going to do is I want to increase it. So I'm going to go over here to the sheet size, edit it. I'm going to go up to a C size sheet instead of a B size because I want to make my drawing a little bit bigger. So notice now it's at a very small view, like that, right? Is yours shaded, by the way? I need to turn my shading off. Okay, I don't want it shaded. That's okay, I gotta turn that off. I got shading turned on. Yours is the way I want it to look. Okay. Yeah. Well, yours is fine, but you got the wrong sheet size. So right click up here, right click on the sheet. Yep. Edit the view, edit the sheet. Make that a C size. Open that C size. Perfect. Okay. All right, so a couple things. If you brought it in at the scale, I think it's 1 to 2. It's a half scale. We're going to pop that up to 1 to 1. So what we're going to do is come to this view, right click on that view, and we're going to edit the view. Okay. So this box opens back up, and a couple things I can change. One, my scale factor. I don't want that scale factor to be 1 over 2. I want it to be 1 to 1. So I want it big. And mine is shaded, so I'm going to turn the shade mode off and OK it. So everybody's view should look about like that. Okay. So if you're not seeing hidden lines, you have hidden lines removed. If it's shaded like mine was, then you got that shade on. Okay. So we got those 3 views. Is everybody good? Since this is my base view, then I can now produce what are called projected views, tops, sides, bottoms. So we're going to go to a projected view. If it doesn't pick that one up automatically, click down in it. If it does pick it up, then you can just place one here. You can place one here, and we can place one isometric. When you're done, right click and tell it to create. And your view should look like that. Okay. So notice, this is a front, this is a top, and this is a side. And these guys project directly in. If this moves, these move with it. So they're linked together. Okay, which is important because when you do this kind of thing, this is how people need to see it. Okay, very important. The other thing is, notice my isometric doesn't have hidden lines. I could turn hidden lines. If I go to this view and edit that view, notice if you want to see hidden lines in that, you can turn hidden lines on in your isometric view. Most people don't do that very typically. So a lot of times you don't want to show that. But if you do want to see that, you can do that. So I'm going to take those hidden view. I'm going to turn the hidden lines off. So one other thing, while we're in this view, if you don't want tangent edges to show up, you can turn those off. If we go to what's called the Display Options tab, Display Options, under that you'll see what are called threaded feature or tangent edges. If you toggle tangent edges off, then what it does is it deletes the round shows the tangent edge, that's gone. So sometimes that's useful and sometimes it's not. Okay, so just depends. All right, so that's a toggle. Did everybody see how that worked? You guys all good? Okay, so if you don't want that on, once you toggle it off, though, it stays off. Okay, so just be aware of that. Okay, is everybody good on that? Any problems? What's up? Set the 1 to 2 to 1. You can change that. Okay. Yeah, gotta go to edit. Go to display options. Display options. And there's a tangent toggle. Okay. So there's going to be 2 ways of placing dimensions. I'm going to show you both ways, okay? One is to actually harvest the dimensions from the sketch. The second way is to actually just replace them. So we're going to go into the Annotate tab. If we go into the Annotate tab, you'll notice there is a dimension. There's a dimension command right here. It's just like AutoCAD's dimension essentially. And it does linear, and you'll notice it also will do baseline dimensioning, it'll do continue and all that kind of stuff. So it pretty much does it the same way AutoCAD does. It's pretty point and shoot. But we can also harvest the dimensions as we get into this. So what we're going to do is take our cursor and harvest those dimensions from the sketch. Okay, so I want you to take your cursor up to the top view. You'll see the red dashed line surrounding it. You're going to right click and we are going to retrieve model annotations. It's about right down in the middle of that shortcut. And what that does, notice it gives me dimensions that are coming directly from the sketch. Okay. So what we're also going to do with this little dialog box that's popped up, we're going to do what's called select parts. So we're going to toggle on select parts instead of select features. Okay. And we are then going to go in and edit the dimensions that we want, and that way it'll take out the dimensions we don't want. I mean, you don't have to do this. This is kind of a different way of doing it, but it's kind of nice. So what we're going to do is select the dimensions that we want to retrieve. So I want to click that 5 unit one there. I want the 2.5 unit one there. I want the 1 inch radius there. The 0.5 one there. And let's see, I think that's probably all I'm going to want from, oh, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to use this other one, the 0.25. So all the other ones I'm not really concerned with. I'm going to discard those essentially. So once we've selected the ones we want, you're going to hit the apply button. Okay. Notice the ones that you don't want it discarded completely. And the ones that you selected are still there. They're just kind of grayed out. Okay. You guys seeing that? So we're going to select another view here, and it goes down and it should select another set of dimensions. And what we're going to do is we're going to retrieve that one, and that one. And then we're going to hit OK. All right. So what it's done, it's gone out to the sketch, it's retrieved the information from that sketch, and it's placed them. And then we can just edit them really easily. Now, you don't have to do this, okay? I don't normally do this. I usually just go in and place them. But this is an easy way of doing it so you can grab the dimensions that you used initially, okay? You guys seeing that? So what we're going to do now is reposition some of these so that they make a little bit more sense. So what I'm going to want to do, I'm going to click on this one and drag him down a little bit. And I'm going to click on this 5 and I'm going to drag him up top. So I have them stacked like that. So that makes a lot more sense. Okay. I'm going to maybe just reposition this one unit one in, but I want to pull this guy out a little bit so I don't want it really running through my part. Okay. I don't want any of the text running through my part. Same thing with this guy here. I'm going to have that right there. Okay. So I've got pretty much everything I want. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now I'm missing a dimension. Maybe I didn't retrieve it, but I want another one over here. So we'll add that after the fact. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to retrieve some of these guys down here. I'm going to take this guy and I want to pull him over here like this. And I'm going to take this guy and pull him inside like that. So notice the look changes completely because all these guys are style driven. So what they're doing is they're looking at those different styles. You guys seen how that works, everybody? I got one more I'm going to drag. I'm going to drag this guy over so that he's over here. You'll let me, you may not. Okay. I'm having a tough time with this one. I may just delete that and replace it. Let me drag my extension line, but not my part. Don't worry, I'll tell you what, we're going to delete that. Okay. I'm having a tough time editing this one, so I'm just going to click on it and I'm going to delete it. All right, so we'll just take him out. So you can add or delete anytime you want. It's not a big deal. Some of them don't edit very nicely. Okay, so all right, so we're going to add a few dimensions that we don't have that we need. So in fact, I'll tell you what, let's do. I'm going to delete these guys down here. We retrieved them, which is cool, but I'm just going to take them out and we're going to replace them. So we're going to add a few, and adding is real simple. All you have to do is come up here to your dimension command right here. And basically, you're just going to select the features you want, and then you just place it. So it's just like AutoCAD. And at this case, if that box, you can turn this box off, I believe, so it accepts it. But it allows you to add symbols either as prefixes or suffixes to it. So you can do that kind of stuff as well. But normally I don't have to do anything, so if it's good, you can just hit OK. Okay. So I placed another dimension here because I needed that. I think everything's actually pretty well taken care of here. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to add a few. So I'm going to add this one here because I couldn't get that one to edit very nicely. So I'm going to add one there. Got to do it right. Did the two edges. So there's my 0.5 dimension. And then we're going to add the two arc radiuses. So they were already there. They were fine, but I can just show you if I place that one there. I got that one. Place that one there. That gives me the other one. And just like AutoCAD, which is also cool, is if the part moves, the dimensions will move with it. Okay, so they're associated with that part. Okay, which is really, really awesome. You guys getting this to work? Very simple. I probably do this, just place my dimensions way more often than I do go harvest them from the part. Okay, so you know, you don't have to do that. That's just something that you can do. So now, the other thing we're going to do besides dimensions, and we're not going to be doing a lot of dimension, but we're going to add some features to these that are important when you're looking at these kind of drawings. At the top, under the annotation tab, there's two things that we're going to look at. Over here, where I'm pointing to, that's called a center line. So that will allow you to create a center line between two selected objects. Okay. So where you typically use this is if you have a hole and you want to show where the center line of that hole is coming down. So like right here, I have a hole. I want a center line there. Okay. The other thing we can do is add what's called a center mark. So this is in the center of a hole, and these are important symbols as well. So we're going to go in and we're going to add some center marks first. I'm sorry, some center lines, and then we'll come back and add some center marks second. So go ahead and select the center line tool. Now you have to be careful with this because it doesn't know whether you're talking about a hole or not. It's just going to have you select two objects and it just slaps it right in the middle, okay? So what I want to do is go to this hidden line here and then select that hidden line. Oops, that didn't work right. Hold on. I don't know, my mind is should have. Oh, I'm sorry. I did the wrong one. I want the one up here next to it. I want center line bisector, okay? Center line, sorry. Center line bisector. So center line bisector, I select the two objects and then it bisects it. The other tool just draws a line from point to point, okay? All right, so center line bisector, we want a bisector there. We want a bisector here, okay? We technically want bisectors in some other places. We'll handle that with some other things. I think we've got all the bisectors that we need right now, so I think we're good. You guys getting that tool to work? Actually, there should be a center line bisector here on that one, and there should be a center line bisector here. Okay? Does everybody get that to work? So those are showing the center line locations of where those holes would be. All right, so we're going to now place some other tools. We're going to use the center mark. So I'm going to go up here and grab the center mark, and I'm going to place a center mark here at this hole, at that hole, and at that hole right there, okay? If we come down here, I'm going to place one at this arc. And that would be it. So those would be the four major ones that I have, okay? Did you guys get that to work? Okay. So when you're done with that, you can right click and hit OK. That'll cancel you out. So these guys are really adjustable. This is kind of cool. I don't necessarily want this bottom one touching the object. So if you click on this, notice you get these green dots. You can just drag that green dot a little bit that way in, and this green dot a little bit that way in. And I really want this guy coming through that hole, so I'm going to drag him through like that. So I just edited that down a little bit to make that look a little bit better. All of those are real stretchable. They have those grips on them, okay? Now the downside is, and I wish this was true, it would keep this a set distance exact, but it's going to do whatever you eyeball it in, okay? So you can't be like real exact with it unless you're doing it with math or something. So up here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a little bit of an adjustment. Okay, what I'm going to want to do is bring this guy's over to that dot right there. And I'm going to bring this guy over to that dot right there. Now, depending on, the discipline, a lot of times you would take this guy down, maybe go a little bit that way to the tangent, past the arc. And I could pop that one up if I wanted to. I don't really need to do that. I can do the same thing over here. Just drag that and drag that. Okay. So technically everything's good. I would probably want to drag this guy up till he touches that and this guy down because that's really the center mark of that. So that would be a proper configuration of using center marks in your bisector lines. Does anybody see anything we might need here? Any dimensions? Does anybody see any dimensions that might be missing? Here's the thing. You minimally put as few dimensions as you can, okay? But you need just enough to be able to have somebody draw this. Do we have enough information for somebody to draw this?
Height of the case that sticks out on the side.
This?
This.
Oh, this right here?
I was thinking the intrusions on the side.
Which view, Cole? This
Oh,
one.
I see it now. Never mind. I was talking about the 0.5.
Okay, but you got it. Do we have enough? So let me ask you this: does this even need any dimensioning on it? Do you think? Do you think there's enough in those two? You see anything that would be missing if you were trying to draw this? The only other thing that you might say is I might need a dimension over here, but it's implied that what's happening here is here. Now, well, the way a lot of people do that, they would say 2 times for 2 holes. So you would put 2x in front of that. So that would say 2 holes at a 1/2 inch diameter. But I think we got everything we need, don't we? We can draw this up. So minimalism is good with dimensions. You don't want to over dimension it. It's just kind of crazy when you do that. Okay, that's kind of the crux of it. Okay, are we good? All right, let's show you something which is pretty cool. There is this model drawing is actually linked to the actual model, okay? So if we change anything on the actual model, this is going to update, okay, which is really cool. So let's say we want to change something. Let's change 2 things. I'm going to change this overall distance to let's say 6, and I'm going to make this thickness 1 inch. So I'm going to come back to this model, and we're going to go to the first extrusion, sketch, and notice where it says 5, I'm going to make that now 6. Okay, so notice it made it bigger. Save the sketch. Notice it changed the model. Go back to the drawing, and you notice it changed the drawing. That's pretty cool, right? So if you're making changes in your model, it's linked to this drawing file. So those things just update automatically. It updated the picture, but it also updated the part size itself, everything else. Okay. So if we wanted to change this, that's an yes. Yep.
Say what's in the model.
Go to the model. The model. Here, you have T5. There you go. Now go to extrusion 1. Open up extrusion 1. Go to double split sketch. All right. See the number 5 at the bottom. Okay, make that 6. Okay, go ahead and finish your sketch. Notice it fixes your model. Go back into your drawing. See how it fixed it? Okay, isn't that cool? So that'll drive that. You don't have to think about anything. You don't have to do anything, right? That's awesome, right? Okay, so they drive it. Unfortunately, that doesn't drive your model, okay? So you can't change the dimension there and it drives your model backwards, but that's okay. Because really, this is just a document. The model is what's really important, okay? That's the thing that you want right, okay? And then it's linked to this. Any questions on that? So there's some other things. You can do 3-dimensional dimensioning and that kind of stuff. So if you want to read a little bit more about that in your book, you can do that. On the drawings we're going to be doing, that's the base level stuff you're going to need to know how to do. Throw some dimensions down on it, put some bisector lines, put some center marks. Okay. So in this next set of drawings, that's what you're going to be doing. The one thing, minimalism, all right? We want as minimum dimensions as we can get by with. Now you might actually need some dimensions here, and some dimensions here, just because of the nature of the part. We didn't need those in this case, right? This case was, that was totally everything we needed right there, okay? So I could give you this drawing and you guys should all be able to draw this. Okay, we good with that? All right, great. All right, so we're gonna take a look at, if you wanna save this for yourself, you can, feel free. We're gonna start a new drawing and we're gonna do this thing called a revolve. So we're going to draw a path curve, and we're going to revolve it around an axis. So it's going to sweep it around, and it's going to generate a piece for us. Then we're going to do a mirror on that part, and then we're going to put a pattern in there in an array and cut that out. Okay. And then I'll be done with the lecture for the day. You guys will be able to get started then. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead. We're going to draw this little pulley thing. This is in chapter 14. You can follow along with that or just follow me. What we're going to do is start out in English. So I want you to go to a new file here. We're going to do a new English standard IPT and create. Okay. So we're going to start out by first toggling on some of our planes. I showed you guys how to do that the other day, but we're going to do this again. So before we go in and start doing a sketch, we're going to open up the origin folder here. And notice you have the X plane, or the, sorry, I should say the YZ plane, the XZ plane, and the XY plane. So what we're going to do is click on the top one, hold the Shift key down, click on the bottom. It should highlight all three. Right click and hit visibility. You should now see that your planes are visible in the three views. Okay. All right, let me back that up. So, whoops, I backed out of the drawing. All right, let me start that over a minute. So, okay, so did you go to origin? And you see the three planes, right? Click on the top. Hold the Shift key down and then click on the bottom plane. It should highlight all three. Okay. Is that right? Hold the Shift key down, click down on the bottom plane. The plane. That one. Yeah. All right. See how it highlights all three of them? And then right click one of the planes. Doesn't matter which one. You're just going to right click one of the planes and then turn on the visibility, okay? So you should see these planes coming in for you. Is that working? All right. So we're gonna generate a pulley that has, you know, kind of an edge at the time, and it's got a thing in the middle. And we're going to revolve it about an axis. So that you got to watch what I'm doing here. This is kind of weird, but it works really well. So we're going to generate a sketch. So we're going to go to sketch, and we're going to tell it what plane we want to start in. You know you can come over here and pick them, but I can also just pick over here. So I'm going to tell it I want to start in the XY plane. So I want the XY plane, okay? So it should look like that. And we're going to start out with a line. All right, we're going to go into a line. And let me see if I want to do anything else before we do that. I think, yeah, before we do that, we're going to do what's called project geometry, okay? So we're not going to draw anything yet. We're going to do a project geometry. So what we have going on there is we have a plane running this way and a plane running that way. Well, we want one of the edges of those planes to project into the plane we're working in, so we're going to project those lines in there. So we're going to go to project geometry, and we're going to hit the x-axis and the y-axis. And you should see two yellow lines appear. Okay? Those have now been projected into the plane that you're working in. Okay? All right, so now we can snap to those things. That's the important thing. All right, so now we're ready to do that line. Okay, so follow what I'm doing here. Just It doesn't have to be exact, but try to make it like what I'm doing. So I want to start out above the horizontal line, snap it to the vertical line. Come over perpendicular. Don't worry about the distance too much. Don't make it too big. And then you're going to come up perpendicular. And then I want you to come down at an angle. Don't worry about the angle. Then we're going to run a line parallel. You might have to zoom in or out to see what you're doing. I'm going to run a line parallel to that axis. And I'm going to do another diagonal, but make sure that you don't go as high as the other one. So make it lower, okay? And then come perpendicular again, or not perpendicular, but parallel. Then bring it back down to your axis, so make sure you snap it. And the last thing we want to do, if I want to connect a line from the beginning point to end point like that. So you should have a figure that looks like that. And when you're done, you can right click and hit OK. Okay, so, all right. So we're gonna edit this with dimensions, but we're gonna do something kind of weird. We're gonna basically have a reference line in the center. So we're gonna use the center line and we're gonna bring it up to that point. We're gonna tell it what the offset distance is, and then we're gonna tell it it's a diameter dimension. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how we do this. Is everybody ready? So we're going to go to the dimension command here. So watch, this is really important, this step. Go to the dimension command. So watch the sequence in the order in which I'm doing it. I'm going to select the X projected line first, then the endpoint right there. Notice it gives me this dimension. You're going to right click, and at the bottom it'll pop up and you'll see linear dimension. Select linear dimension, and it tells you, oh, you got a linear diameter now. So just place that off to the side like that. Don't worry about its size. Just hit, that's good, okay? Everybody see that? So we're gonna do that for all the points on this pulley. So I'm gonna go yellow line, endpoint, right click, linear dimension, pull it off to the side, hit OK. If you're doing this right, you should see the diameter symbol there. If you're not doing it right, that's not going to show up. You good? No, you're not good. Okay. You're real lost. You don't have anything. Here, go up to the side. Here, get up this side. Here. Follow the directions. That's okay. Get it. It's all right. So let's see. I'll redo that because you did have that projected. Okay, so we're going to do a line. X-axis, line. Alright, so now we're going to do dimension, select, hit, right click, linear, place it. Select, point, right click, linear. Okay, and keep doing that. Gonna do that. Is everybody following what I'm doing now? We're gonna do that for all of these, okay? All right, so we're gonna say yellow line, right click, linear, pull it out so you can see it. Do it again. yellow line, right click, linear, yellow line. So you should have a bunch of these when you get done. And ultimately, we're going to have the last one will be this one, like that. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those guys in there, okay? I'll give you a second to catch up, and then we'll get started. We're going to edit these, okay? We're going to edit these. All right, so I'm going to do it in this order because that'll make sure everything's right. So I'm going to start with this outside one. It should be 4. Okay. Does anybody have anything greater than 4 here? Because it'll really whack it out. So I'm going to start out here with 4. We're going to change that outside one, the biggest one. We're going to change that to 4. So just double click it, make it 4. Okay, so it might whack the shape of that out. That should be right. The next one is going to be 3.75. The next one is going to be 3.5. So we're basically going a quarter at each one of those. Okay. Then we get down to the lower 3. It's going to be 1.5. 1.25 and 0.75. Okay. So it goes 4, 3.75, 3.5, and then 1.5, 1.25, 0.75. Okay. We have 2 more dimensions to place then. I want a dimension across the top here. Make that 0.75. I want, actually we have 3. I want one at the bottom. That's going to be 0.5. And then I want one in the middle, right there, and that's going to be 0.125. Okay. So your part should roughly look like that. All right. How we doing? So we're going to take this thing now, we're going to revolve it around an axis. And what this is going to do is generate a solid shape for us. So this is different. We haven't done anything like this before. We've done a lot of extrusions, cuts, but this is different. Do you have a question? Yeah. Which one? Yeah, that one's already been. Get rid of that one. Here. Okay, so it's just maybe that middle one. You need to between those 2 screens. Yeah, between there and there. Okay. Is everybody else good? Okay. So we're going to revolve this thing now around an axis. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to this command, go to the 3D model tab, go to 3D model. Notice next to extrude, there's the revolve command. It should automatically fix your or find your profile. If it doesn't, you can select it. And we're then going to hit the yellow line like that. And we're going to do OK. And if you look out at this thing now, you'll see what you've done is you've generated a pulley. Notice the 2 sides. One is like that, and the other one is like that. You can use that revolve tool for a whole lot of things. So you can just draw a path curve and revolve it about an axis. It's really a pretty cool tool. You don't have to use that linear dimension the way I did it, by the way. There's other ways to do that, but I thought that would show you that because that's kind of cool. That's a cool little thing. And if you do it in the book by the authors, sometimes it's hard to figure out what he's doing. So I just wanted to make sure you guys, if you went back and wanted to look at it, you know how to do it. Did everybody get their revolve to work? Pretty awesome, isn't it? Okay, so we're going to, this is just half of the pulley. So what we're going to do is generate the full pulley. So we're going to do this by doing a mirror. So notice, I want you to get your view to look something like this. Okay, I want it to look like that. And under the 3D model tab, there's a mirror tool over here. So what we're going to do is select the feature. And then where it says mirror plane, come down here and select that and select the back of that. It'll show you approximately what it's going to do. And if you like it, then you just hit OK. So now you should have your pulley back and front. So we have generated that pulley pretty easily, doing a revolve and a mirror. Okay. Would there have been a way to do that without doing the mirror? Anybody know? Could we have done that without doing the mirror? We could have, but we would have had to draw the curve mirror, right? So which is quicker? It just depends on, you know, it depends on you. Actually, probably doing a half of it and then revolving it and then mirroring it was probably easy. Okay, so that was just a 3-step process. Sketch, revolve, mirror. Okay. So my point was, if I did one sketch, I could do one revolve. I wouldn't have to do the mirror, but then you have a little bit more complexity that you have to deal with. Okay. So it's kind of on your part what works. You guys getting it to work all right? Everybody got that? So now we can see this thing. If you really want to see it, what we can do is come in here and turn your planes off. So I'm going to select the plane, shift, select the last plane, right click and turn my visibility off on all those planes and I can see exactly what's going on here. Okay. Does that look good for everybody? All right, so we're going to punch a hole through this thing. We're going to create what's called they call it a pattern. In AutoCAD, we call it an array. And what we're going to be doing is what we're going to do is called a polar array. Polar array. Okay. They call it a pattern. All right, so in order to do this, I'm going to generate the plane that I want to work on. The plane that I want to work on is going to be this XY plane. Okay. So we're going to go to the YZ plane. The YZ plane. I'm going to go to the YZ plane, right click, and I'm going to make that visible. So make sure you can see it like this. All right. Now, because this thing is shaded, I'm going to actually be working on that plane. My sketch curve is going to be in the plane. I'm not going to be able to see it. Does anybody know how I can make it so that I can see it? I want to still be able to see the features, but I don't want to see them as a solid feature. I don't want to see them shaded. Showed you this one of the weeks. Yes, and we go up to view. Very good. Go up to view. Visual style. And we're going to set that to what, Cole? You'll be able to tell me? Wireframe. Wireframe. Perfect. If you go to wireframe view, what that allows you to do is see through it. Basically sees your part just as wires, if you will. Okay. So I'm going to put it in like that. We're going to also do our projection. I'm going to want to project geometry, and I'm going to want to project the Y and the Z axis. Okay. So I've got the one plane on. I'm going to go to the Y axis. Let's see. First of all, let me go back to, I'm getting ahead of myself. Go to sketch. See, we haven't gotten into the sketch mode, so we're going to have to get into the sketch mode first. So we're going to get into the sketch mode, and then we're going to project geometry, okay? So go ahead and do a sketch. you can select that plane as your sketch plane. Notice there's no yellow projected lines like we had before, so we're going to go to the project geometry tool again. Select your axes. We're going to do the y-axis, and we're going to do the z-axis. So you should have the two of them showing up there, okay? All right, so we're going to generate now. You can right-click if you want and hit OK. We're going to generate a circle. Okay, so I want you to just generate a circle. Don't worry about where it is. Just kind of put it in that northeast quadrant right there, somewhere like right there. Okay, so that's going to be my sketch tool, or my sketch that I'm going to be using. So what I'm going to now do is generate what's called a construction line. And we're going to generate a construction line from the center point of the circle to the center point of the pulley. Okay, so I'm going to do this thing up here called a construction line. So it just generates a dash line, and it doesn't become part of the sketch. Okay, so we're going to go to the line tool here, select the center of the circle that we just placed to the center of the geometry, and when you're done, you can go ahead and hit right click and OK. So what we did is we just established that line. Notice also it's dashed, so it says, hey, this is a construction line. Okay. Now we're going to generate a circle whose center point is going to be there, and its diameter is going to be through the center of this circle. And it's also going to be a construction circle, okay? Because we're going to use this to dimension with. So we're going to go into circle, select this point here, select that point there. Notice we have that constructed circle, okay? So I'm going to now place a dimension from that axis line to that construction line, pull him out here. Whatever the dimension says it is, I want to make it 30 degrees, okay? We want to make it 30 degrees. We're going to dimension this construction line circle. And again, whatever diameter it tells you, you want that to do 2.5. And you should notice when you type that in, the circle went with it. So we placed that line, we pulled it to go that way, so it moved that with it. And then this circle is linking that in. Is that working? What is the angle? 30 degrees. Kevin? You're okay. You just need to dimension it now. So go into dimension. Oh, you know what? You do not have your lines projected. So go into projection. I think we have a z-axis. Yeah, there you go. Okay, now try to be able to up to that line, do the line, construction line. Construction line. It's not like do it. Not sure why it's so much. I think you have something strange. Now draw a circle from the center to the other circle. So you have to mention that circle. Yeah, looks like it works. Okay, we good? You got it fixed? Okay. All right, so what's cool is these guys are driving the location of that, right? So if I change that diameter, the circle will go in or out. And if I change the angle, that'll change as well, which is pretty neat. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and finish this sketch. Let's finish the sketch. And what we're gonna do is extrude this. So we want to extrude this as a cut, and we want to do it in both directions. So we're gonna go into 3D model, extrude. If it doesn't pick up your circle, go ahead and select the circle. We want to do a symmetric, both directions. Make sure it's a cut, and make sure you go through all. Okay? That way it's going to punch it through both directions, and it should go in both directions through all. Go ahead and hit OK. You should see a hole that goes through both directions. You should see that hole sitting there. If we go back to now a normal view, we should see what this thing looks like. So if we go back to our view, go back to a shaded, you should be able to see what you've got going on. And if you want, you can toggle off your plane visibility. So there we've got that right there. Already got that? Now, if you don't do a symmetric, you may see a hole in one direction but not the other because it's only punching it in one direction. First time I did that, I was doing that way. Looking it around, I couldn't see it. Okay, so now what we want to do is make a few changes. So we're going to do a change on this guy. We're going to make that change. So go to the extrusion, go to the sketch, right-click sketch, edit the sketch. I want to change the 30 degrees to 90 degrees. So it should put it, whoa. Hold on a minute, that didn't work. Some didn't work on mine. That should just take it 90 degrees. Whoops. Anybody get it to work? Okay, 90 degrees, go ahead and finish the sketch, and it should move the hole up. Okay. So we just changed the sketch, we were 30, now we're 90. It doesn't look like it does anything on the sketch, but it actually does it. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna do what's called a circular pattern. Circular pattern, it's this guy here, this is a polar array. So we're gonna go to that tool, select. Now here's what you need to do with, you need to be able to see the hole properly. So what I do is get it to an angle so you can see the hole. Click on the inside of the hole, otherwise it usually doesn't work for you. Select the rotation axis, select the other hole like that. tell it you want to place, instead of 6 segments, you want 5. And then you can hit OK. And there's your polar array. So it's pretty nice. You can adjust the one. And because this is the sketch that drives these guys, I could change that sketch up. If I change the diameter, those would all change because it's based on that sketch. So remember, everything's parent-child, 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 the way it's working. Did you guys get it to work? Yep. No? Didn't? I'll be there in a second. What's it? That's good right there. Oh, you gotta pick the object first. Pick the object. Okay. Pick that as your rotation. The inside. There you go. There you go. Okay. I'm sorry. Number 35. Inside. Yeah. There you go. Perfect. You're not gonna get it to work in your view. Let's see. Rotate the seats. Shift right here. Shift. Okay. That'll work right there. Okay, so go into your array, pick the inside of that circle. That's it. And then pick the inside of that circle. Not that one. Just the inside of that circle. You gotta be able to just hold on a minute. We gotta tell them rotation. There you go. There you go. Okay. Perfect. Okay. All right. So that's showing you how these guys piece together. This is a really cool, some cool tools. Not that you're going to need to use them. Probably we'd need more out of the first stuff doing the dimensions. Let me do this. Okay. So I'm going to terminate this real quick, and then I'm going to see if there's questions, and we'll get you guys started.